This is the weekend where the country celebrates Independence Day, in a year where celebrations have been few and far between. Personally, I can't wait to declare my independence from Zoom celebrations and get back to a more face-to-face interaction. Graduations, Mother's Day with your children, and even memorial services are hard to adjust to in a Zoom environment. Celebrating a holiday, whether it be a civic or religious one, is not the same as observing a holiday. For example, Independence Day is very celebratory, while Memorial Day is observed as a day of reflection. The same applies to the Christian calendar, where we celebrate Christmas, we celebrate Easter, but we observe Good Friday. Two words, celebrating versus observing, but a world of difference. Recently, a well-meaning speaker welcomed everyone present to the celebration of 9/11. You could hear the groans. July 4th, 1776, symbolized by the Declaration of Independence, which has also been called the greatest breakup letter in history. Sorry, King George. Yes, it's over between us. We want to govern ourselves and not be governed by you. And no, we cannot still be friends. Probably the most memorable line comes early in the document, where it says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." This is the 23rd Psalm of U.S. historical documents. Everybody knows it. Why this document, why this statement matters to us as a community of faith is that the forerunner of what became the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, commonly known as freedom of religion. We sometimes take this freedom for granted, but the founders knew freedom of religion had to be spelled out for everyone's protection. This was not always the case in colonial America. Sure, many persons came from Europe for freedom of worship, free from government control. But like the real estate saying, location, 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 the colony you landed at determined if and how you could express your religious beliefs. For example, Massachusetts or Connecticut had limited toleration, that's in quotes, of persons other than Congregationalists, which were the Puritans. But a portion of everyone's taxes went to support the churches. Roger Williams established the colony of Rhode Island between Massachusetts and Connecticut, and he accepted anyone without regard to beliefs, and even welcomed the establishment of a synagogue for a congregation of Jews exiled from Brazil. New York, and I guess New Jersey also, originally settled by the Dutch East India Company, was religiously tolerant, as long as it didn't interfere with business. William Penn, to our south and west, like Roger Williams, welcomes all believers, which can explain why Mennonites, Moravians, and Amish sects located there. Baltimore became as a Catholic colony, and the list goes on. In what has become an American tradition, the colonists did not always stay with the religion that they arrived with. They multiplied and diversified, and are still doing it today, establishing many offshoots of the Anglican Church and the mainline Calvinist faiths from Europe and Scotland. The Declaration of Independence had 56 signers from 6 different sects, the majority of those being Anglicans. Now, if you're asking yourself, where are the Methodists? The quick answer is they were just getting started here in the colonies and did not have an impact early on, but until after the Revolution. Maybe the pastor will put together a series or study on the Methodist Church in America at a future time. So why does this matter, holding dear the freedom of religion? Because if we didn't have it, we could be subject to the whims of elected officials who come and go. This is true today and was definitely true in Europe throughout the Middle Ages, and even in modern times. Now, I want to switch gears for a minute here. I just want to relate a few experiences relating to religious liberty through the eyes of a 22-year-old US soldier in Europe 50 years ago. And you're saying religion and soldiers in the same sentence? Well, bear with me. I was drafted into the Army in August of 1968, 3 months after finishing college. We students had that coveted 2S student deferment while in school. But once you graduated or left the school for other reasons, your local draft board came a-calling, and they came a-calling quick. Now, 1968 was a tumultuous year with cities in flames, race riots, student sit-ins, and did I mention a controversial war in Vietnam? There were also 2 very prominent assassinations. Being a soldier then was like being a police officer today. In 1968, the war was our fault. Now everything is the fault of the police. The Army trained me first as an infantryman, then as a radio operator, and finally as a radio teletype operator. Most radio men were sent to Vietnam, and unfortunately the majority of them did not make it back alive. But by the grace of God, I was assigned to a small outfit in the British garrison city of Münster, Westphalia, in northern Germany, where I spent the balance of my 2-year hitch. Now, eager to learn of the culture and the history of this area, and armed with a camera and a small pocket German-English dictionary, I set off in the spring of 1969 to explore the city of Münster. Münster, translated, means cathedral, so that was my first stop. Looking up at the steeple, it was a very tall steeple, I noticed 3 cages, and the explanation was that is where they punished the Anabaptist rebels in the mid-1500s. It's a long time to hold a grudge, still having the cages there. Even it was, not too long after Luther's Reformation. Moving through the town, the next stop was the Peace Hall, where the Peace of Westphalia was signed in 1648, 100 years after this incident with the cages. So far, so good, until I learned that the peace ended the 30 Years' War, which claimed 8 million lives, including 20% of the German population. This was a religious war, 1618 to 1648, that involved over 40 countries at one time or another. Almost all of Northern Europe and Central Europe came to blows, not just over religious beliefs, but over the government control of religion. When you try to put all these pieces together, you see why so many different nationalities and religious sects left Europe in the 1600s and 1700s and headed to North America. The bottom line is they wanted to have diverse worship, free from government control, and our First Amendment keeps that dream alive. Now, I'll give you 2 more soldier experiences. They won't be as long. Second soldier experience. Münster is also a university city, and a few of us soldiers made acquaintance with a group of students, and we had many good times together. One evening, the students were all very serious about something, and when we asked what that something was, they relayed the following: "We are getting ready to graduate and wish to apply for teaching positions in the public schools. On the form that we fill out, you must check a box that says religion. 2 choices, Catholic or Lutheran. No exceptions, you can't leave it blank, you can't check other or even non-believer. If the box was not checked, kiss your job prospects goodbye." They actually asked us, the soldiers, for advice, and our only response was we sorted that out in 1776. So even in 1970, the West German government could bring influence on your beliefs. Third and last soldier experience. We're still in 1969 and 1970. As they said, we were with the British Army, and they provided security guards for our camp, rotating a different company in every couple of weeks. They had names like the Royal Dragoons and the Sherwood Foresters of Foot come to mind. If names of infantry battalions could win wars, they'd win them all. Evenings would be spent with the US and British soldiers together in the enlisted men's club, playing the foosball game or having a few liquid beverages. Remember, Vietnam, on many occasions, the Brits would berate us with things like, "Why are you there?" The answer was, "Well, we're sent by the government." "But it's not your country." And our answer would be, "Well, we're trying to end a civil war and bring peace, prevent slaughter, and somebody's got to do it." And many more. We were definitely on the defensive in that argument. 4 or 5 months later, the same guards were rotating through again. This time we saw them out doing what appeared to be riot training, with half throwing rocks at the other half and missiles, and the other half with shields, batons, and helmets. That night, back in the enlisted men's club, I asked my friend Ian, I said, "Ian, what's going on over here?" His response was, "Oh, we've been posted to Belfast." "Belfast?" I said, "Why are you going?" His answer was, "Well, we're being sent by the government." And my next question to him was, "But it's not your country." And his answer was, "Well, we're trying to end a civil war and bring peace, and somebody's got to do it." In soldier lingo, that's what you call a payback. But it was really very sad that 320 years after the Peace of Westphalia, sectarian violence was alive and well on a relatively small island where everybody spoke the same language, but has lingering religious differences. Once again, we are fortunate to live in a country that not only tolerates religious diversity, but ensures its existence in perpetuity. Sometimes we dwell on the negative, but in the case of religious freedom, we have a real positive. Amen.